video is part 2 of the CPS Libraries Google Sites training. In this video, we are going to learn about the basics of starting to set up your site once you receive it. In the previous video, I showed you how to request a Google site from the CPS ITS department. Once you've requested your site, a few days later, you'll receive an email from Google Sites admin called Google at CPS Site Created. As you open that email, it will tell you that congratulations, your site is ready to use, and it will tell you how to access your site. Keep in mind that this Google site by CPS currently is not visible to external audiences. So they give you a link in case you want an external audience site for your school, as well as a reminder about their Gone Google training site, which is great. You should check it out. So what it will tell you is to come up to the top here. You'll notice the first time that you create a site, you now have the site link. So I'm clicking on that, and I've created several other sites, so I have more than one site here. I'm going to click on the site that was created for this training purpose. And when it comes on, I had requested the plain site layout. If you had requested that as well, yours will look like this. But this is the basics of how it comes out. And if you requested a different template, that's no problem. This training will still apply to you. Let's take a moment to just look at the overall layout of the site before you've edited it at all. Notice that you have an area at the top, which is the banner area. You also have this side navigation panel and the main page area. Up at the top here are the editing tools that you'll have. Later on, we're going to look at this one in another video, which helps you to edit a specific page. This one helps you to add a new page to your website. But first, we're going to get in several of the other functions here under More and Share. First, let's click on the Share button. As you'll notice, by default, when your site first comes to you, it is only private to you, and only you can access it. For the purpose of the Google Sites Cook-Off, though, I'm going to ask you to change that so that I'm able to track your site and be able to see it with you. So, a couple things to notice here. It mentions who the owner is. And I'm going to click on that button to share it, and I'm going to click on Chicago Public Schools, meaning that all people in Chicago Public Schools can find and access it. You can always move it to people at Chicago Public Schools with a link, or you can move it back to private. As I clicked on that, it says that anyone with Chicago Public Schools can view. You could change that to edit. If for some reason you need a site that everybody can come in and add to, you could make that a different permission. But let's stick with the Chicago Public Schools one for now. I also just want to point out here that Google Sites does allow you to enable page level permissions, which means that certain people can use certain pages and change certain pages, but not the entire site. We won't talk about that in this video, though. There is one other way that you can add specific people for sharing. So you can actually type in the names and email addresses of collaborators that you would like to be able to access your document. So I've typed in a name. I can assign that person as an owner, an editor, or just to view it. So by default, it comes in at can edit. As you add somebody to your site to be able to help you with it, you can also click on add a message if you want to notify them in more detail about why you're doing that. And then save and share. Once you've saved it with them, it will pop up in their sites when they click on their link as well. Next, we're going to look at some overall settings for your site. So I'm going to click on More again and go down to Manage Site. The first things that you'll see here are under the General tab. So there are some decisions that you can make here. For the site name, which you had selected, you can decide if you want to show the site name at the top of your pages or not. I generally don't, just to keep less text on each page, but that's your decision. Next, you'll enter site categories if you want to help it to be more findable, and a site description. You probably won't want to keep the landing page at the home page, but if you create another page that you prefer they come to first, then you could change that once you have more pages in your site. There's a couple other things here, but those are the main things. So take a moment and fill out the categories and the site description now. After you have typed in your site categories and your site description, go ahead and click Save. Next, we are going to look at the site layout. So I'm clicking on the site layout here. You can change your site layout if you would like to in the beginning stages of creating your website. I don't recommend doing it when you have a very complex website because it can throw off the work that you've already done. So let's take a look at what we have here. One of your options is to change the site layout. So let's click on that and take a look at that and see what your options are. Um, you can select your site width. You can use the default for it or change that if you want to. In the beginning, if you're new to creating a Google site, I wouldn't change too much that is there. You can decide if you want a header or not, and the size and height of it. I'm planning to use a header, so I'm going to leave that there. You can select if you want to have a sidebar, if you want the sidebar to be on the left or the right, and how many pixels that you want it to be. You can also decide if you want to have a footer or not, and how big it should be. So those are some basic sites there. Now I want to go in and look at the logo next because you may want to use your own banner. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to slip out of Google Sites for a moment because I need to create a banner for my website. If you are familiar with graphic design programs, then you can use whatever programs work for you, but I'm going to show a simple way that's accessible to everybody. And so I've opened up PowerPoint. And I'm going to make my own logo. So I have gone into a template gallery that I know, and I happen to have this background here. You could take a picture of your library or a picture of books or computer, whatever works for you to create some kind of background to get started. Next, I have created several text boxes on top of that. Again, it could be on top of a picture, a portion of a picture. Now I'm going to save this slide as a picture. And I'm going to select a JPEG in this case, put it on my desktop, label it my banner, and save it. So now instead of being a PowerPoint slide, it's going to be a picture slide. So I'm going to go and find this slide on my desktop. Here it is. Going to open it. Now, depending on what type of picture editing software you have on your website, you'll probably look differently, very different than this. But I'm going to select just the banner out of this white background of this slide and crop it, and then I have the banner itself. Now I'm going to adjust the size of it. And actually, I'm not going to in this case because this is good. For me, I generally go with a banner of a width of about 800 pixels. So I may just make this slightly bigger. You can do what works for you. And now I have a banner which I can use in my website. Again, this is just one of many ways that you could create a banner. You may already have graphics works from your school as well. Now let's look at how to import your banner into your website. I've already brought one in here. Let's see how I did it. I'm going to More and Edit Site Layout. Notice that this menu bar appears at the top. Header is there. You can toggle these on and off. If I turn it off, then there is no header there. Let's turn it back on so that we can edit it. And notice as you mouse over certain sections, they become activated and you can edit them. So if I put the mouse here in the header section, you'll see parts of it are grayed out. And I can actually just click into it and it brings up this menu. With this menu, you can select the height that you want if you want to do anything with that. I usually do the theme default. And then this is pretty important. You can set the alignment. I usually do middle and center. And then for logo, you can select no logo, the default for the domain CPS, or a custom logo, which is what we're looking at. You select choose file, and on your computer navigate to the location for the graphic that you just made and select OK. And it will save. Then you can close it up and your banner is in place. You can always change it if you need to. I want to show you just a couple of more things with managing the site here as well. Going back to the site layout. One of the things that I like to do when I set up a site is configure the search. By default, Google puts a search bar there so that your site can be searched. I generally like to disable that search. It comes in enabled. I like to disable it because it puts the search kind of close to the banner, and my sites never have so many pages that I need for people to be able to search through them. But depending on your site, you may want to enable or disable search. So now you have a header, a nice banner at the top of your website. Again, notice here there's just a couple more things to remind you about here. With the sidebar, you can always edit it, delete it if you don't want it there. Let's look at the edit a little bit. The edit will give you options such as if you want to display the title. By default, it will organize your navigation as you add pages, but you will probably look at that again. Just be aware for now that it is there. So I'm going to select Save and go back to the site just one more time to take a look at it and look at what we've accomplished so far. In our next training video, we'll start to talk more about customizing the site to be your own. Thank you very much.